welcome to the Starship Atomdust Chronicles, episode 16. This is called Veterans Deployed to Real-World Operations. And today we have 3 of them. I'm Captain Dustin Wray, and as you can see, I've been calling myself that, but I'm actually a captain, a retired Army captain. So let's go ahead and get right into the introductions. First, I'll introduce myself, Captain Dustin Wray Hockensmith. I've been deployed to the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations, that's Kuwait and Iraq. I was deployed from 2003 to 2004 with the 946 Transportation Company out of Lewis, Delaware, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I served as a platoon leader, then as the company commander of a 185 soldier company hauling fuel into and throughout Iraq in support of combat operations. To my right, we have Chief Warrant Officer 4, Jack Reppart. He was deployed twice to the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations, also Kuwait and Iraq, with the 371st Sustainment Brigade out of Springfield, Ohio, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. The first time was in 2003-2004. We were there at the same time. We did see each other one time. And when he served as a logistics officer doing supply, distribution, and sustainment. The second time was in 2013-2014, 10 years later, when he served as the safety officer, briefing the brigade commander daily on risk of operations and accident and death investigations. To my left, we have Specialist Kirk Mines deployed to the European Theater of Operations, Bosnia, from 1996 to 1997 with the 346 PSYOP Company, Columbus, Ohio, in support of Operation Joint Endeavor. Served as a psychological operations specialist doing public relations. Oddly enough, I was also in that unit in my enlisted time. We served together in the first unit we were both in, the 321st PSYOP Company out of Parma, Ohio. Then when I was in college, I went served 2 years in the 346. Then he went to the 346 and deployed from that unit to Bosnia. So
and we all served on the USS Atomdust.
And we all served, very good point.
Yes.
We all served in the USS Atomdust in my first big budget music video called "I Got You." That was based. It was kind of based off of or let's say influenced off of Star Trek, and you can see that on my channel. He was my number one, and
I was the dashing science officer. Check out the video.
Science officer.
Gotta say it.
Our equal or parallel to Mr. Spock, I guess. Yeah. Very played very well. Both of you guys did awesome.
Logical conclusion.
Yeah. So we are going to talk a little bit about our experiences being deployed, which I guess might have been a little similar, but also very different. And
Hooah!
hooah! And we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
So, Jack, what do you think?
Well, I did see you, Dusty, at a brief moment at Camp Doha.
Yeah.
And Doha was a place in Kuwait that a lot of things happened, you know.
I was at Camp Arif John first. We ran all our operations, hauling fuel out of Camp Arif John, which was it was like the base that they kind of built from nothing.
Right.
When this whole thing kicked off. And then we got remissioned for like the last three months or so to pull security duty. Yippee! In Kuwait. And that's where we were at Doha.
And a lot of military bases was out in the middle of nowhere. Things like Camp Virginia, you know, there's all in the middle of the sand, and they had to throw up generators. So Camp Virginia was my home base, but they did have me working out of Camp Doha, and I eventually had to go back to Camp Virginia to report to the commander and do things. So
when I saw you, your whole unit was there.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys were
Yeah,
getting ready to leave or...
we were getting ready to leave. Yeah. So, and Doha was a nice place. I mean, that was a better location if you wanted to. If you were deployed, you wanted to at least visit Camp Doha. So, you know.
Yeah, they had PX and nice chow hall.
Yep. Yeah.
All the big brass visited there. All the USO. You know, we saw Collective Soul and some Robin Williams. I met Robin Williams.
They had
Arnold
that,
Schwarzenegger.
They had that baseball player that played football too. What was his name?
Deion Sanders or
yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, they had tons
There was
of
a lot of-
entertainment
yeah.
because they would come and try to treat us well, and it was worth it. You know, I mean, I liked it. If you're stuck out there, you might as well make the best of it.
Yeah, we were right there. So whenever for the last few months. So whenever, well, you know what? I'm probably getting some of this conflated because I was at Arifjaw, and Arifjaw was big and built up too. So they probably had some of the shows at Arifjaw, and some of, you know, this was over 20 years ago.
And each base would have 10 to 12,000 people in the middle of nowhere. So it's not like, you know, the entertainers, while they're there, they might as well go up to Camp Virginia and do something. So, yeah, those things did happen. But I know Dusty and I were talking that in order to travel, you had to have a trip ticket signed by a colonel. And so our unit was visited by a lot of people because people wanted to travel, and we had 3 or 4 or 5 colonels. So colonels are hard to come by. So
Full bird colonels.
yeah, full bird
06,
colonels.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had 2 of those, but light colonels, you know, we had a boat.
Not a dozen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was one thing I guess I forgot about was, you know, all the USO shows. Wayne Newton, we saw Wayne Newton. I did, and
I'll tell you another thing that the Army's stupid about is, you know, their way of having fun. They'll throw in a Halloween 5K run, Christmas 5K run, Turkey 5K run. You know what I mean? That was supposed to be something that soldiers like us would be like, oh yeah, let's do it. And I did get into it the second deployment because my focus was to try to build up and run a marathon, which I did accomplish. I did the Marine Corps marathon, and they hosted it there in Kuwait. So that first deployment that you were in, my goal was to lift weights. So I eventually got to a point where I was able to bench press 300 pounds. So you know,
yeah, I mean,
fitness.
I don't know if maybe there was maybe more time or more built up logistically 10 years later. I don't know, but I mean, the bases we were at were in Kuwait, which might have made a difference. I know they moved a lot of operations up into Iraq as we were leaving, or right after we left.
Let's see what Kirk has to say.
Well, we're kind of talking about stuff he doesn't know about.
Yeah.
everything is G14 classified. Just kidding.
Whoa!
You mentioned the USO shows, and I was a bit salty because towards the end of my deployment there, it was getting towards Christmas, and we were at our second camp, which was Camp Demi, which was kind of a mud hole, and the word on the street was the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders were coming to visit our camp. So, and the chalkboard in the talk, they had a countdown till Christmas and a countdown to cheerleaders, and you know everyone was happy. And then the day
Which was more important?
you know,
Yeah, exactly.
so the day they were supposed to be there, we went out on our patrol early that day, got all of our mission accomplished, came back, put our clean uniforms on, and you know, go out all cleaned up. You know, we figured that they would probably have a show in the DFAC around probably 1900 or so, which is kind of what they normally would do. And then we walked into the DFAC and everything was just there as usual. And then we found out, oh, well, they came and were there for like a half hour, 45 minutes, while we were out, doing our mission.
Oh.
So that was a letdown. And then later on that night, we got another swift kick in the butt that says, well, half of us were going to be leaving within the next week or so to go to Tuzla to get rotated back home. We wanted to go home as our own group. We didn't want to get split up. So it was kind of a double whammy that night. So yeah, the USO shows were few and far between in the little forward base camps in Bosnia. If you were in the bigger camp in Tuzla or Sarajevo, that's where all the big entertainment, or the ISB in Hungary.
And pays well, wouldn't you say? Being overseas,
Yeah.
hazard duty pay.
Yeah.
But you are
You
without.
definitely earned it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not, there was definitely, at least what I was doing, there was a lot of risk involved. There was danger. You got danger pay, and you definitely earned it. Because it was danger.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing I do want to get. If we, even if we do, we might do another episode here. But in both episodes, I want to talk at least a little bit about, get everybody to mention what they actually did over there, what your mission was, and I'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned, we were hauling fuel. We started hauling fuel from Kuwait and up into Iraq, and then we would actually go up, pick up in Iraq, and haul to different places in Iraq. And we did all different types of fuel. Like, we would do diesel, we would do regular gas, we would do just different things. And sometimes we would pick up at a actual what do you call it? A regular civilian base where they would actually make not make the fuel, but process the fuel and
fuel refinery.
Refine the fuel, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then we would deliver to like gas stations.
Huh.
Like, there'd be a gas station that would have a holding fuel, a holding for fuel, and then there would be a gas station up front and long lines of people waiting for gas.
Civilians.
Civilians. That would
Okay.
just be like waiting for fuel, and they would like just want to come talk to us or just see us or whatever. And the one word that we would know, I don't know if you would know this if you were in too many convoys like we were, but the one word you'd always learn was imshe. It was back, get back.
No, I didn't.
Because you didn't want them to get too close to your trucks, because sabotage or whatever. They could have IEDs on them. They could be rigged with bombs. So you have to really watch and get to, kind of see what they were doing.
If you're all a MoGas, a cigarette would do you in.
Right. Especially if they
When
were
you're offloading, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of different experiences there. Sometimes if you thought that maybe they were just, sometimes you got to know certain people, whatever, or you thought maybe they were just selling Iraqi bayonets or something. You would go away from your truck, go buy one, and then come back towards your truck.
You mean one of those?
Yeah, I did get a few what they call war trophies over there.
Oh, you're not going to tell me the price of those now.
Yeah, you looked them up. I don't know. I got about a half a dozen of these on my trips there. You want to check these out?
Yeah, partial this bakelite on this one is gorgeous.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I imagine we kind of figured that they were Russian made. Most likely, I believe the Russians were probably supplying the Iraqi army. They probably supplied the Iraqis and the Iranians. But,
these are called war trophies. So.
War trophies, and we were allowed to bring them back. We just had to declare them. And Jack wants one. I said, a grand a piece would be good.
Well, I'll raise the money. I'll check with my wife.
So, anyways, I don't really need that anymore. So yeah, we were the big 7.5K tankers, A lot of the units over there, especially, well, active duty and reserves were 5K tankers.
Were you
tanker
called the
units.
Red Ball Express?
We were not.
Okay, but they had that.
I don't know who they are.
There was a fuel moving description, but
We were just our company was the 946 trans company. We were called the Fuel Mules. That's what we named ourselves, I guess.
We actually had our own Red Ball Express where
Red
I
Ball
was,
Express.
but they were just the dedicated group that supplied all the various forward outposts with all of our product that we would disseminate. So all of our newspapers and our comic books and flyers and posters and leaflets, they would drive around. They called themselves the Red Ball. They had little 5 red dots painted on their Humvees. They thought they were special.
Yeah, that's a
We didn't
that's
like
a named derivative of the past. Like
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
in
World War
wars
II,
past.
yeah.
Yeah.
The original Red Ball Express was the guys that supplied Patton's army during World
Yep,
War II.
yeah. Boy, Kirk
But-
knows his stuff,
Yeah.
man.
But we did move a lot of fuel just because we were the bigger tankers, the 7.5K tankers. So I think there's, even in active duty, there's only like 1 or 2 units that had the big tankers like we had. So we did a lot of good for the cause, I guess, being that we had the big. We probably got replaced by another unit out of Washington State that were probably 7.5K tankers. I think National Guard. But go ahead. What did your unit do?
Well, I was deployed twice, so I'll just link up with what he did. The first deployment in 2003 and 2004, I was a logistics warrior, and the trucks would come to the base, and we'd make sure that they were loaded up, tagged, because we wanted to be able to track where they went. So they had, the trackers back then were this size. Now that you get, a little dinky tracker now. But we would make sure that they had everything they needed. They were strapped down, and they left at the time that they were supposed to leave.
Now, again, you were in a brigade headquarters.
Yes.
So that is
Huge.
commanded by a full board colonel,
Correct.
and you have battalions underneath you.
Yep.
And under battalions
There's
are companies.
Right, which you was a part
So
of.
I was a company commander. So he served in a unit that was 2 levels above me,
Right.
and you were also in a company. So
And being a warrant officer, I tell you, you can ask anybody. That's the job you want. There's not been somebody that's been. I actually met officers. They wish they were warrant officers. So it's a great job. They leave you alone. You specialize in your field. And I was the leading officer on my shift. There was a captain who later became major. He was in charge of a shift that I became friends with, Major Ray. A story that I got, because shipping containers is what gets loaded, generally speaking, and I think they called it the T-Rex. They'd be able to lock down, pick it up, and drive around. Well, the people that work there, we often use the word Hajis. Okay, so those are host nation workers or foreigners, and unfortunately, I didn't see this happen, but it happened at my location. Is one of the containers came unlocked, and there was somebody underneath there, so the container just flattened them. Somebody said it looked like spaghetti. It was that bad. But that's the danger that you face being in the military, whether it's IEDs, whether it's handling equipment. There's just that level of danger, and then of course, I don't know. I know Dusty's doesn't have a wife and kids, but did you? Kirk?
I didn't at the time. No.
Okay, so you're away from your wife. At the time, I didn't have it. I had 2 young kids or 3 young kids. So a year away from your family is pretty taxing. And back in 2003 and 2004, internet was not the greatest. 2013-14, that's a different story. We were able to do things off our own laptops. So things changed quite a bit
Yeah.
10 years later. So the second deployment, I was a safety officer, and I briefed the commander daily. I was in charge of making sure risk assessments, all the dangerous stuff I got to see, and try to mitigate risk and say, hey, do you think if you did this, it would be better? If people got killed, investigations came through me. Accidents, I had to come to the root of the cause and try to prevent it. So I was pretty busy. I will say I had a NCO that was with me, but unfortunately he died of a heart attack. So I never really had any help. I did this all myself. So, but again, would I do it again? Absolutely. I think the military is good for people. Instills discipline, and I tell you what, you get stronger in your faith. When you were away from home, you got a lot of prayer time, and we live in Ohio, and you don't get to see the stars as you do in the desert. Those stars look like they're just right there, and so a lot of prayer time, a lot of alone time, and that's what God God wants us to be closer to Him, and I think those are the times that I was closer to Him. I really grew.
Not as many distractions
Yeah.
and everything. You're not sitting at home watching TV
Yep.
and
Yeah.
go out, sit in the sand and write songs. I would.
And
as
you
a
know what?
songwriter.
It's a dry, nobody's drinking. Not that I drank, but if you drank a lot, you weren't drinking at all. You know what I mean? Well, at least you could try to smuggle it, but you could get caught. Which my unit was in. We were a sustainment brigade. We caught people, and they were in trouble. So you paid the crime for that. But yeah.
You'd have had a field day with us.
So I kind of know what you did because I had basically the same job when
Yes.
I was enlisted, but I didn't go to Bosnia. So what did you do?
The easiest way to describe that is it's a Eastern European West Virginia.
Sounds.
And
I've actually been to Ukraine a couple times.
so parts of it actually reminded me of, being home from the Warrant and Youngstown areas, because there was a lot of heavy industry there.
Yeah.
And what wasn't destroyed was still very archaic and run down looking. So even if it was still mostly intact, it still looked, derelict.
Right.
And there was open pit mines. There was a blast furnace that we drove past probably a couple times a week, going to little different cities and towns that we frequented. And so a lot of it reminded me of being in Warren or some parts of the north or west side of Youngstown, where all the steel mills were at the time, that were still all rusting away.
Yeah.
But our job basically was to win the hearts and minds of the people, because there was basically a three-way civil war going on there. At the late 80s, early 90s, when the Soviet Union fell, all those little communist countries in Eastern Europe wanted their independence back. So they all kind of wanted their independence back at the same time. Ukraine and East Germany and all them wanted theirs, and now that the cash cow that was the Soviet Union wasn't there to subsidize them, things went downhill rather quickly. So it ended up being a three-way civil war, and we were there to make the fighting stop and to get some sort of cooperation between the three different ethnic factions that were, up to that point, killing each other. So depending on what town you went to, you either welcomed or you got the stink eye, or worse.
Right.
But you mentioned the alcohol.
Was
As
Bosnia
Dusty,
dry or no?
no. Well, the deployment was dry.
Okay.
Okay, but because PSYOPs, psychological operations, and civil affairs were under the U.S. Army Special Operations Command umbrella, we had what they called the SOF waiver, the Special Operations Forces waiver. So in order to build the trust with the people that you're there to win their trust,
You had to be sober.
Well,
They didn't want people getting drunk and causing problems.
Their beverage is Slivovic, which is plum brandy.
Huh.
So you couldn't go and meet them without them pouring you shots. And it would have been, insulting to them to not partake. So they have what they call a 2-shot rule, where you could take 2 and you weren't supposed to drink any more. You turn your cup over, that was supposed to be, hey, that's it. You turn around, talk to someone, you turn around, and it's back up right filled up again. So you just drank whatever they drank, and usually they were serving Turkish coffee at the same time, so they kind of counterbalance each other because
Let me ask you this.
I was one of the primary drivers that
I was going to say, did the driver stay in the vehicle
No,
when they were
no.
doing?
No.
Yeah, he gets his
I
2
could have been a
shots.
certified alcoholic by the time I could have literally drank anyone under the table because the stuff they serve over there is
High
fire.
alcoholic
It is. It's, but it was good. But yeah, the Turkish coffee probably saved my bacon more than one occasions, and we would smuggle the stuff onto our camps because the Slivovic is clear. So we would have those 1.5 liter water bottles. We'd get a 6-pack of them out of the Connex. We'd give them to the people in the villages, and they'd give us a full bottle of Slivovic because they would make it in the stills. Each village had its own still.
So back to the West
potable
Virginia.
water,
And just put it in water bottles, and they won't even know.
So
Yeah, we would bring it to our camp.
so back to the West Virginia reference.
Yeah, that was their moonshine.
yeah.
Yeah, it was their moonshine basically. Only it was more potent than the stuff here because the plums had a natural sucrose base, so you didn't have to add anything to it to get, like if you're doing corn or grain, you didn't have to add anything to spice up the alcohol content. It was already there. Yeah, we'd use it as windshield washer fluid in the Humvees in the winter.
So did anybody get into any accidents because of this?
Not that I know of. I had a guy have an accident in the back of my Humvee because it was his first outing with us, and he drank too much at this place that we were at.
Not quite what I asked, but
that's-
okay.
Yeah, so he had an
Different kind of
accident inside of
accident.
my truck.
Yeah, different kind of
Yeah.
accident. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
most of
boy.
the accidents were rollovers or maybe UXO or mine strikes,
Gotcha.
because the roads were like ours over here. And though the potholes were shell craters, literally and figuratively.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I've seen some very horrible roads in Ukraine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally driving switchbacks on these mountains, and
Yeah.
there may be remnants of a guardrail. Sometimes there wasn't, and if you went off, it was. I mean, they're 1-lane road.
Right.
You're literally on the side of a mountain. So if you
Wow.
drove off, you're going 200-300 feet down.
When you were there, was there still? It was after the actual Civil War or three-way
the
war.
fighting had stopped by the
Fighting had
time
basically
I got
stopped,
there,
yeah.
but a lot of the destruction was still there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, the worst part was all the mines and the unexploded ordinance everywhere. And within a week and a half after I got there, the first camp was called Camp Linda. And it was outside the city of Olivo. It was in this little borough called Olovske Luke. And all the tall grass outside the wire of the camp, this guy was cutting his brother's property with a scythe, and he tripped the wire of a Palm Z, and he was killed. And that was within like the first week I was there. And then a few weeks later, someone was burning some rubble in what was left of a house, and an unexploded RPG round went off. So anytime that happened, the camp went on like full alert. And,
Right.
That made me think of like one of the big VA disability things is the burn pits.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm sure our viewers need to know, like, when you have to go to the bathroom, you could go number one pretty much anywhere, but number two was in these.
Explain this 1 and 2 you're talking about.
Well,
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
would have to be inside a pan, and then people would put diesel fuel and burn it.
Yeah.
And
The trash.
and the trash. So that's not good for you. I mean, I don't know what you.
Some people, I mean, we didn't have to do that being officers.
Right.
We didn't have, I would think I was around a burn pit once. I had to go find somebody to ask them something, and they were on that detail.
Right.
But what they're saying is, if you were in the theater of operations in the camp, you would
Get exposed.
get
to it.
exposed to it.
Right. So I'm just putting that out there. That's something civilians are not.
I've seen people do that detail and wear their gas masks
Yeah.
because that's how nasty it was.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
I remember
Toxic.
Camp Lisa, which was like one of the brigade camps. I don't know if it was the military's or a civilian, but there was like a big dump right outside the camp that they were always burning stuff. Whenever we would go there, you'd have to pass that dump, and there was always like a putrid stench. I don't know if it was a civilian landfill, but they were always burning stuff right outside the camp.
Yeah. Big difference from the first deployment that Dusty's familiar with, and second is, we started getting porta potties, so everybody knows what that is. But first deployment, that wasn't an option. It was a big straw in the sand. You know what I mean? It's just somebody put. So that's where you went number 1. But so I don't know.
Well, how are we looking on time? You guys want to do another episode, or how long have we been going?
I don't know.
Good job.
But
Good job, number 1. You're fired.
it's at least been. It's been definitely more than 20 minutes.
You guys got more stories you want to tell?
Unless logic dictates that we go to part 2, Captain.
Tell you what, let's wrap this one up, and we're going to go ahead and do another episode. So, if you enjoyed this at all, the next one's going to be better.
Yes.
So let's wrap this up. This is the end of episode 16, and we're going to do one more, and we're going to tell some cool stories in the next one. So that's it. Check us out. Episode 17 coming up.
It behooves you to tune back in.
Aye, aye, Captain.
All right. Captain Dustin Wray signing off. Come on back for the next one.